invite Bobby. All right. Feeling good, Mr. Brown. What's going on, Mr. Firestone?
Hey there, how's it going?
Doing okay.
Yeah.
Is it possible we're not going to have like 800 people rolled out on a 3-game slate?
I don't think so, Brandon. I think this is a pretty clean slate. I think we're ready to do it. I don't think there's a whole lot to I mean, look, who knows? Look, like a Laker gets knocked out, that's it. There's your argument for stacking the late game.
Interesting.
I don't have like a whole bunch of people I have as seen as questionable, but you never know with things these days, especially with COVID and everything. So who knows? But as of right now, I feel better about knowing what's happening than I usually do. If there's one Laker that ends up knocked out for any reason, which I don't see as being likely based on where they're at and the players speak and everything like that, without a COVID protocol thing or something, because they definitely seem to want to realize they need to win. They need to play better. There's a lot of talk going on. I can't really see them sitting people, especially against the Celtics. So on a nationally televised game, like, it just doesn't seem as likely to me. Maybe if I can't even think of what nick it would be, but I guess that could happen. But nothing to wait for on the Spurs that they haven't told us. I do think there's an outside chance the Spurs may sit somebody else. I guess that's the best possibility, just because it's a back-to-back. Popovich loves to do that. He always announces late. If it was anybody, it might be a guy like Podol. It might be a guy, I don't know who it would be. Keldon Johnson, Derek White, I don't know. I don't think so. But I think we're ready to go. And saying what's up to Adam and Chad and to K9 Bronco. What's up, fellas? Good to see you all here on a Tuesday. It's not all that exciting. So we're going to have to get creative and manage your bankroll. That's what I always say on these 3-game slates. Sort of the general rule of thumb, just get as creative as possible and take some reaches and some chances. As we talked about earlier, you put it out a great one who's currently in my main lineup on DraftKings, and James Johnson.
I love it.
Yeah, and if you play him with like a Lonnie Walker, because that's what I would try to do. Try to play him.
That's what I got. That's what I got right now.
There it is. All right.
But you know what I do have in my main lineup on DraftKings, by the way?
What's that?
Is we talked about it earlier, and it's the ultimate Bobby move to play Westbrook and Schroeder on DraftKings instead of FanDuel.
Yeah, I am playing Schroeder. I still haven't come around to the Westbrook thing yet, even though I agree with the idea that I do have him in one of my smaller buy-ins on DraftKings, but not my big one yet. I have 100% Tatum on DraftKings, though.
I like that.
I don't know how to get away from this.
What I do need to do, and just so you guys know, in full transparency, I'm playing. I played 20 lineups in the lottery. I basically scripted and saber simmed and screwed around and firing those. And then in my main lineup, I'm playing that in. Right now, I'm playing that in the 555. I have that same lineup for now in the lottery, the 3 max, and the single entry. What I think I'm going to do is just whittle it a little bit. You know what I mean? Not play the exact same lineup in the other 2 bigger buy-ins.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go over some of these kind of like fringy plays that that might take me off some guys and some others. You mentioned Lonnie Walker. I want to go over, as I usually do, just some of these value plays in my board here, so you
Yep.
could just tell me which one's like atrocious and which one's like actually viable. The first one I want to mention is Josh Richardson.
Okay.
Um, he's the same price as Lonnie Walker at about half the ownership, and he's projecting for me to be like literally 0.2 points less.
I think that's viable.
Yeah.
I also think that you could throw in Reggie Bullock into that conversation.
Bullock, okay.
Look, on most slates, I would say these are not the guys you want to be playing. But on this particular slate, I think that it's it's completely viable.
Right.
And then I personally don't have like I honestly don't even know that you need to necessarily spend down in these places. But I think if you spend down in multiple like 3 spots and then spend up, but don't spend over 10K on anybody, I think you're going to be able to get at least a little bit different enough on this kind of slate to at least give yourself a chance in a tournament like that where it doesn't have 100,000 people. So I'm doing it with Johnson. I'm trying to do it with Johnson, Robinson, Howard, and Lonnie Walker, and really just
that's what I got. We're gonna have very similar shit.
Well, I didn't end up doing it though in my main lineup on
Okay.
DraftKings. I did take out the Lonnie Walker currently, but I might go back to it. I do have him in 60% of my overall DraftKings lineups though. And you know, some of these questions in chat are going to be actually interesting. So K9 Bronco saying Westbrook creative with a couple question marks. If you look at Westbrook, he averages about 40 fantasy points a game, a little over 40 with LeBron on the court. So that's not exactly ideal considering, especially AD didn't play one of those games. And he still put up 45, I think it was, in overtime. So Westbrook is creative, but on FanDuel, he's more viable because the price makes more sense. He also turns the ball over, so takes away some of his upside. It's a little bit of a tricky one with Westbrook. I think it looks more enticing on FanDuel, and I like the other point guard. So if we're taking like DeJounte Murray is going to outscore Westbrook most of the time here, and is cheaper.
Right.
I like Schroeder. I like the 2 double center modes. I love like Podol, Howard, and Robinson a lot. So I'm not finding myself getting to as much Westbrook on DraftKings, but I think it's a good idea. It's just, I think it should be treated like, I wouldn't expect Westbrook to put up, more than 55 here very often, but he certainly has it in him. And then the other one that was interesting in there is the thoughts on RJ Barrett. So I think all of those Knick guards, and I'll just go ahead, or all those Knick situations, I'll just rank my favorites. I think Alec Burks is the safest, makes the most sense of all of them. I think Derrick Rose is my favorite tournament of all of them. I think that Barrett would come just barely ahead of Quickly for me, and they're very, very close. It's really going to depend on how they play. That starting lineup has been the worst starting lineup in all of sports. When they had Kemba, they took Kemba out, so maybe that opens things up more for Barrett, you'd say. But they're going to play Derrick Rose in crunch time, and I'm not even 100% sure RJ Barrett gets crunch time minutes. Now, probably he gets them over quickly, but it's not 100% guaranteed, and it could even end up being the other weird one, which is Fournier, and I was kind of hoping no one would play him so I could take that sort of gamble, but it looks like he's going to have some ownership as well. So it's pretty spread out with these guys, and that's how I have them ranked personally. The question between RJ Barrett really does depend on the rest of your lineup, because if you've got no other Knicks in there, no other Knick guards, I would say, yeah, RJ Barrett might be a better play than Keldon Johnson. But if you're going to talk about, which play I like straight up, if you already do have another Knick guard, which I do, I would take Keldon Johnson over him. So it does depend on the rest of your lineup to try and answer that question. The Knicks are changing their lineups. So Red Pill Owl, let me know what you mean. You said they're changing their lineup. What evidence do you have a starting lineup for us? Because then you asked, is Noel going to start? I don't have anything about the Knicks starting lineup being different right now, and I don't know. I mean, I guess you could speculate on them changing their lineup, but I don't have that right now.
Let me ask you a question: Are we playing Freedom?
I really am not, to be honest with you.
I'm not either. I was wondering where we eventually came around with that.
Yeah, I would rather play Dwight, I think, and I would rather play Mitch Rob. or let's just say theoretically Noel ends up starting, I could just switch over to Noel from Mitch Rob.
I'm not getting him at all.
Yeah, I'm personally not getting to him. His ownership is going to be lower than what people are projecting, but it already has dropped like in half from where they had it earlier in the day. So I don't know.
I think that would eventually resolve itself. So
if he got down to like 10%, but I mean, they have all their other bigs there. Like, they have Horford, they've got Robert Williams, they've got, they've got plenty they can deal with. Adam Tatum can play the 4, obviously, against AD if he needs to. Grant Williams plays the 4 and the 5 sometimes. So I don't really know where the minutes are going to come from for Enes. But he's such a great fantasy point per minute producer. It's like if I was playing 150, he definitely would be in lower than what the field would have, but I'd have him in like 5 to 10% of my lineups. I just don't see that I need to play him with the limited number of lineups that I'm playing today.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, in my big lineup on FanDuel, it's definitely different. I have the Celtics Lakers kind of stack with no Tatum. I gotta think about this one. This has got like four other Celtics with Anthony Davis.
Okay, so I didn't really get to many of the Lakers on FanDuel, but
I just meant just Davis. I meant on
Oh yeah,
I got Horford, Richardson, Smart, and Schroeder. That seems a little ambitious.
Yeah, I even felt a little funny with the Smart Schroeder too many places without a run back, but I do have Smart and Schroeder currently in my main lineup. I don't have any other Celtics. They're all viable, completely viable, but not guys who I was looking at particularly. I liked trying to get a little different over there by playing Kleba and getting the Brooklyn and Dallas stack, playing Luka and Durant and then the Chalky Aldridge and then Patty Mills. That's sort of what I'm doing on FanDuel. Basically my whole lineup. Red Pill Alley is bringing up something really interesting, especially worth speculating on this kind of a slate. Tibbs said he will shake up the lineup today on a Knicks podcast. It was suggested Noel would take over for Robinson. Again, all we have to do then is you can just switch Noel for Robinson. It doesn't mean anything more than that to me if that's going to be the kind of move they're going to make. And because in the early game, the guys I'm playing, it's not like I can't adjust my lineups after lock. I just don't see that coming down to that for me very often. But I completely I like that I like the information. I think it's really, really, I like when people are tapped in because it's hard to keep track of everybody's podcast and the coach speaking. You sort of hear contradictory things sometimes, but I don't know what that would extra 200 get you. So I would just play Robinson if you want to play one of those guys. And then if you have to switch over to Noel, play Noel if he's starting, if you like that better, which doesn't, by the way, even if he starts, doesn't mean Robinson's not going to play more. The part that would be interesting would be if they started Obi Toppin. That's something I could see being a little bit of a game changer. I think Toppin has some upside. He's been getting a little bit more run lately. Unfortunately, they haven't been winning for them. But I think that's the kind of move I could see Tibbs making more likely than – I mean, you know what? The other one he could go out there and just say, you know what? I haven't been playing this guy many minutes lately. I'll just start Taj Gibson and then play the other guys off the bench. I probably wouldn't play Taj Gibson even if he started him. I might. But I think Toppin is the interesting what the Knicks could do. That seems more like a move he could make. Noel, it says, looks like John Jenkins said as of 2 hours ago, Noel was wearing starters practice kit during Tuesday's shoot around. Okay, all right, that's interesting. This is good speculation, but again, does it really make a difference? Can't we just play Noel?
Does it make you less likely to play Mitch Rob or no?
Yeah, it would make me play Noel more.
Right.
But then you just switch that up. But I would still play some Mitch Rob. I actually think that would make Mitch Rob kind of interesting because that's exactly what people are going to do is what I'm saying. So I actually kind of like that. I think it's kind of interesting actually.
So whichever one's starting, I think we should play.
I think whichever one's starting is the better obvious play, but I think the other one is still viable even if the other one starts. I mean, we all know Nerlens Noel can pick up 2,000 30 seconds anyway. It's only if Mitch Rob is out of the rotation that you have to worry. And I don't see that as being the case, but it's possible. They could play Obi Toppin more. It makes the talking about shaking up lineups more makes me want to get creative and play a couple Obi Toppins because I have currently 75% James Johnson on DraftKings. So I can take some of those and maybe take some Obi Toppin shares instead. That's the way I'm going to treat it.
I'll tell you something I don't like, Bobby. I know you like him as a play. I don't like a 60% Dennis Schroeder on FanDuel. I don't think.
I hear you. He's 5,200, but I hear you. He's 5,200 in the best possible matchup against his former team, who he's angry at, and he'll take a million shots. But I got you. I like the idea. Look, Sheets, if I was just playing two lineups, I would probably lean towards playing him on DraftKings and not on FanDuel, because that's the kind of thing I like to try and do. Also, there's lots of great card plays. So I kind of like your idea of fading it, but it would have to be – I wouldn't want to fade him for someone else in his same price range. I would want to fade him for other plays. I want somebody I want to either go low or high if I was going to do it.
The guys that – the closest thing I come up with is kind of low-owned-ish plays on FanDuel is what I'm looking at. So one guy you mentioned earlier is I have Kleber at only 15% ownership.
Yep.
I like that. I like Mitch Robb if he's going to play.
Yep.
At 13%, I have him. And then another guy who's just showing up is he's just going to get a 0. But if he doesn't, you have Thad Young at 3,700.
Yep.
It's just enough games where on the slate that I can, I can justify it.
Let's take Thad. Yeah, so I feel more secure about James Johnson getting minutes than I do Thad Young getting minutes. Yeah. So, but again, we're on a back-to-back. So usually that would mean, okay, we'd be worried about playing Thad Young, but he only played 7 minutes on the front end. That means maybe it is Thad Young time. So I like that. That strategically makes a lot of sense to me. The odd part is I don't think you're getting that low of ownership on Thad Young.
I have him at 9%, but you could be right.
Yeah, exactly. But what do you have James Johnson at?
On FanDuel, I don't think he's on my list.
Oh, on FanDuel. I was talking about on DraftKings, but yeah.
I'm talking about FanDuel.
Yeah, but either way, I think it's pretty much the same play on either side, right? I think it's close. Could be the same play for me anyway. But I would, I'm getting. You know what I really think the speculation is to maybe play a little bit more of this. What's his name here? To play Obi Toppin a little bit. That might be something we could do, because I don't think he's going to be the one starting. But he has gotten a little bit more run. He's pretty productive. He's actually looked a lot better this season. He sort of fits into that same category. So I would play Obi Toppin at no ownership over these other guys who are going to get some ownership. And the thing about Thad Young that I like is that you will see Pop, to give Podol less minutes sometimes on a back-to-back, and Podol's going to be the ultimate chalk and all that. So I like the idea of the Thad Young play, but I think that you can go ahead and play the Obi Toppin and basically get just as different. You know what I mean?
I kind of want
or more different.
I kind of want an actual. Has Toppin been playing minutes anyway, or?
Yeah, played 20 and 19 the last 2 games. He hasn't scored less than double-digit fantasy points in a while. Put up 20 and 19 each of the last 2 games they played. Did something happen? Because I'm getting some different players who are getting projections that didn't have projections before. So
check that out.
Don't be surprised if Pop does anything. It's a really tricky situation,
Who's that? Vassell and who else?
It's really just Vassell, right? But it's the back-to-back that makes you wonder what they're going to do with everybody, because he does tend to rest. But I don't know what his plan is this year, but he generally tries to win games, and I don't know. I can't see it. I don't see. I think Vassell ends up playing. I think Podol ends up playing, but it wouldn't be completely shocking to me if last minute we heard he was out.
So we'll wait for the Knicks play 7:30, right?
Knicks they play at 8:30.
8:30. Okay. Butler is out tomorrow.
Okay.
Freedom. No. Let me just see if I can get any Knicks stuff. They'll announce that later.
I really like Derrick Rose, by the way, guys. Just want to keep re-emphasizing this. I think he's a really strong play.
Derrick Rose?
Yep.
Thad Young. 3-game slate. Just trying to get which one of the precedents have it? I'm looking at Nick's stuff, trying to find anything. But like you said, it doesn't really matter all that much. He's still. Oh, that's all. You saw what I saw. The guy saw what I saw.
Yeah.
Thibodeau said still mulling change, but Nerlens Noel and starters blue jersey at shoot around. That's if that's actually accurate, that's a pretty sharp observation.
Great read by those guys. Great information. Appreciate it. Like, yeah, it's really helpful. But I'm just gonna go back to that. If anything, it makes me want to play Obi Toppin. I'm not saying this is a surefire thing to do. I'm just saying that if you're starting Nerlens Noel instead of Mitch Robinson is not really a game-changing thing. You're talking about basically the same type of player, but one, in my opinion, Noel is just not as good as Robinson is as a real-life player. But in terms of a fantasy producer, he can be very strong. They both can be. So yeah, I think I have interest in both those situations. Thad Young. I'm going to get a little Thad Young into my lineup. So I'm going to be building as we go. So I can stick around here.
You playing any Luka?
I think it's Knicks. Yeah, I like Luka. I'm using him on my main lineup on FanDuel. I'm not using him in main lineup on DraftKings, but I do like him still. And I think that he's a better play than the other guys are. But I also like Kristaps' price and I think it's a good matchup for Kristaps. So I like the Kristaps Harden or Kristaps, preferably Kristaps Durant for me because the guard position is so strong.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at what Mitch Rob's done the last couple of games. Like 2 games ago, he played 30 minutes. He was 3 for 5 from the field, 8 rebounds and 5 blocks.
Yeah.
And then his last game, they gave him only 22 minutes against Jokic, though. I don't know why they wouldn't play him more, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't necessarily have an answer for you on that one. I wish I did. I wish I knew too, but it's something to do more with like the way that their lineups have been getting crushed. Certain lineups have been getting crushed, so they try to make. But it might actually be better for Mitch Rob to have this situation. To be honest with you.
Yeah, Believer is saying that the Schroeder fade. Yeah, I mean, but as Bobby said also, I mean, he's only 5,200, and you know, like it or not, the Lakers are kind of a good matchup for anybody right now. And Schroeder,
yeah, that's the only vengeful one too we've got.
Yeah, and Schroeder would be, you know, very active, and I don't want to say it's tough for him to fail because it's not like he's freaking Michael Jordan. It's still freaking Dennis Schroeder. It's not like he's great or anything.
No, he has a really high usage rate though. I think it's about 25% over the last month, which is pretty good for a guy his price, even on DraftKings, and that's a pretty solid price. I mean, Schroeder versus Burks on DraftKings would be an interesting argument. I would prefer Schroeder over Burks.
Yeah.
But we certainly have seen some, you know, stranger things happen. The Tatum one is the hardest one for me to fade. I think you can definitely make arguments for fading Schroeder. No problem with it. And like I said, you could turn Mitch Rob into Noel, or you can skip both of them. But I do I think Noel is I mean, first of all, he's viable anyway. But you do have other options.
Right.
I think the Obi Toppin thing is interesting. I really do.
No, he's not going to start, right?
No, I wouldn't imagine. But if you're talking about really shaking up lineups and stuff, like he's like the one guy who doesn't play who they could shake things up with.
I'll answer this one, Jay Smooth. DeJounte Murray is definitely a better play than Westbrook. If you just say who's going to get more points per dollar 100 times, it's going to be, in my opinion, at least according to the numbers, it's going to be Murray. But on a 3-game slate, we mulled about this a little earlier today. That's just, you can get if you ever get a guy like that at, 10% or less on a 3-game slate, I think you kind of want to try it. So that's.
Then why isn't it LeBron that you're trying? That's what I don't
I
understand.
have some of that too.
Yeah. Well, I would just say that, like, I mean, look, you obviously know how I feel about Westbrook, and LeBron is going to be higher owned. Westbrook and Davis's ownership is popping up and up and up throughout the day. So I don't think Westbrook is going to be completely unowned. I'll just point out that I don't think he's had a game we could use him for even on a 3-game slate all year long that LeBron's played in. There might have been one outlier one where he did have a big game, but I'm pretty sure it was like an overtime game or something like that. Something strange that happened. No, it wasn't. I mean, look at all of his games without LeBron and games with LeBron. I mean, it's like a total tale of two. He had one game. That was an overtime game that he got there with LeBron.
The good news is that it's 10 o'clock.
Yep.
And I'll have guys in the early games, and
Yep.
I'll see if I have like a nut, somehow the nuts going into that, I could take Westbrook out and do something different.
Yeah.
I mean, I could just put Schroeder in that spot, for example, and then I could just do something different. I mean, I could definitely do that.
Yeah. They're asking if we think Kleber gets decent minutes. I think Kleber will play between 24 and 32 minutes. I know that's a wide range. I would average it out to 28, but that is the range of his minutes. And I think the higher end is more likely than the lower end, assuming the game stays close. I think you'll see Kleber at the 5. And I think you'll see Kristaps at the 4 in that situation. You don't need to play big against Brooklyn, but neither of those guys are true bigs anyway. There's a chance he could get faded out because they have enough guards. They could play small with Brunson, Hardaway, Luka, and DFS. And I'm not doing the one thing that I wanted to get creative with because I just can't. Against bigs, they will play those weird, Boban minutes. And on a small slate, I'd be willing to take a gamble that maybe he has some really good minutes and he stays out there for like 12, 15 minutes and ends up putting up like 35 fantasy points, which we've seen so many times before. But I just can't see why they would play him much against Brooklyn.
No, I don't think that. I don't think they would do that.
But if they did, then you have like the guy, the must-have at no ownership, I agree. In the lottery, Adam, 100% how I think about Westbrook today. You should be playing him in large field, small buy-in tournaments. That's what where I would be playing Westbrook. I would not be playing him in high buy-in, small field tournaments. Now, if they announced anybody else out, any of those 3 out, I would just stack up the hell out of that last game and just say I'll deal with the rest. But I don't think they're going to do that based on everything I've been hearing about the Lakers right now. And by the way, I like the Lakers to come away with a win tonight with a pretty decent win. I really think they're gonna bring their best effort forward. I know would say, oh, what does that mean? Well, Anthony Davis is not going to be the worst shooter in basketball for the rest of the season. And Anthony Davis,
you would think not.
He's the Laker killer. I mean, it's unbelievable how bad he's been. It's actually, when I was looking at the numbers today, I was like, this is like, we're 24 games into the season. I mean, for him to be the worst in all shooting categories, other than free throws, the worst from 3-point range, the worst from the mid range from 16 to 20, and then the worst from 10 to 16 or 12 to 16. It's just almost impossible. Like, you can't be this bad. And also maybe tell LeBron, hey, get down low, beat the hell out of these guys. They don't have anybody to match up with you. I like all the points John Jenkins is making. I don't know that it makes any difference about why we're doing what we're doing. From a DFS standpoint, we're just going to play the one who we think is going to play more. And with Noel having the better return lately for the Knicks in terms of their overall plus minus, then we can if we want to make that assumption, we can go ahead and do that. It's not going to really matter though, because you can always drop down from Robinson to Noel. I just think it gets interesting when you bring in on these small slates the guys like the Obi Toppins, who's by the way, when I looked last, he was projected at 4% owned. Now I've got him at 12%. So apparently we're not the only ones who are having this idea. At least other people seem to be having the same thought. And I think that the thin Thaddeus Young play is another one you could go to. I think it's a little thinner than Toppin personally. Yeah. Especially against a team you don't really need to play true bigs against with Podol out there because you can use Randall. And Podol's on a back-to-back too. Yeah. Anyway. And I think Randall is too low owned on both sites, to be honest with you, for what it's worth.
You think Randall's too low owned?
Mm-hmm. I think Randall at his price should be like 40+% owned on this slate.
Yeah, discretion is going to be the better part of valor here. I agree with you. I'm not gonna play what's his name, Westbrook in the big buy-in smaller field. I'm gonna on DraftKings.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do that in the whatchamacallit, in just the lottery, I think.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. If we go Randall, I do think Randall will end up lower owned on DraftKings than he will on FanDuel, and I think there's no reason for that. That I like him just as much on both sides, so no difference at all for me, for whatever that's worth. I think I might put Toppin in my main lineup and just roll with it. I really do. And I also love Jalen Brunson. I think
you're really into the Toppin, huh?
It's just the best speculative play I can come up with. You know what I mean? It's a 3-game slate. We want to try. Look, this is a big slate. None of us would even have this conversation for 2 seconds, but it's just not. And if you don't have Luka in lineups and you don't have Porzingis in lineups, you should probably be looking to play some Brunson, by the way, too. That's the other one that I think is going to pick up some steam, but I think he's a really strong play and certainly has the upside. Also, it couldn't be a better game environment for him against a team like Brooklyn. I think I'm going to do the Toppin thing, personally. I think I'm going to play Toppin and Johnson in my main lineup.
What's Toppin's price? 30 through 32?
3,100, yeah.
Is he shooting guard eligible as well?
No, small forward, power forward. There is some risk in Johnson with the possibility of Claxton. I totally agree with that. But however, we've been saying this for a while now, and one thing that's happened is he's been sort of their guy. And by the way, I don't think tonight we're going to have Claxton back. I'm almost positive he's not. I don't have him projected as playing. Do you have him in their sheets? Any projection on Claxton?
I didn't notice.
If there's any way to check, that's a kind of interesting. Because I have Claxton as playing 0 minutes tonight, so I don't think that's as of right now. Unless we hear about Claxton, I don't know what's going to happen in that case. And if there was ever a matchup, they absolutely would have no need to play Claxton. This would be because
you have James Johnson going back to one of his 75 former teams.
It's true. Every game is a revenge game for that guy. And by the way, I'll tell you this right now: James Johnson would be on my first team all. If I had to get into a fight, who would be on my side? First of all, he's a freaking.
Oh, I think the first all revenge team.
No, I mean, but he doesn't have. I mean, he wouldn't be all revenge in basketball. I'm saying if I had to get into a street fight
okay.
He'd be one of my 5 guys. Him and PJ Tucker would definitely be on the list. But I don't know if the revenge thing matters because he's a pretty good team player. Like he's not a guy who ever tries to take over or do anything outside of his comfort zone. He's actually like one of those guys who I always thought should have been a better player. Could have been like he's a good rotation player, I think, for a championship contender when he was at his best. And never really got that full on chance to the full extent, I guess.
Well, if you really wanted to do like this, you really speculate about this Knicks stuff. Like if he was going to shake up the lineup, he'd certainly still have to play Randall, right? Then you're talking about Noel, Toppin, and Derrick Rose probably. But Derrick Rose would play anyway.
Derrick Rose is going to get he'll get the important run anyway, almost always. Unless they're up and they want it for defensive purposes, they don't have him in. That's the only way he does it if they're up by a decent enough amount. Otherwise, he's basically a closer. Fournier, this is a great question from Red Pill Al. The more lower owned THJ or Fournier, THJ will be much lower owned and is thinner, but there is a route for that guy. Pretty much all the time, there's going to be a route for that guy. Even his numbers with LeBron, it's sort of the same thing as Westbrook. It's so hard for him to do quite as much. But I think he's going to be significantly lower owned than Fournier, and Fournier is a wild card too. It's like if he gets hot, he could stay on the court. But it's like an offense defense thing, and the Knicks have so many guys in that same place. Maybe taking THJ is not the worst idea in the world. It's just not what I'm finding personally. I'm not playing Fournier either. If Fournier was going to be lower owned, I would have leaned Fournier over THJ. Where it stands now, I'd probably lean THJ over Fournette. But Tatum is going to, one thing I can promise, to take all the overs. Bet Tatum over on everything. He's gonna do everything. Yeah, you can. Jeremiah Vincent, that's my main build up not to give everything away, but that is Murray, Randall, and Tatum are my main build on DraftKings. And I'm actually playing thinner value. Like it does feel weird to play Toppin over Walker, you know? That's maybe something I could change up a little bit. I mean, Lonnie Walker feels like a kind of guy you should play in addition to those guys, not instead of.
I'm playing them both.
No, but I mean throwing Toppin in there also.
I'm playing them both.
But you're skipping James Johnson now.
I think I'm going to skip James Johnson.
Your original play sheets. Well, at least one of us will have them.
Right.
I think that actually might be right, though.
I mean, I still have him, just not in the bigger one. So.
Yeah. Let's see. Randall, Obi, Toppin, Howard. Could skip Howard. I like Howard a little bit. Playing no only center eligible players is another way you can get kind of different too today for what it's worth to you guys.
This Noel Robinson thing, just whole thing seems fishy. I don't even know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just play him starting. I guess I'll just play him starting, I guess.
Yeah, and then if you think it's going to take the ownership, which it will, take out of the other guy, then I would consider some of the other guy. But then again, if we're going to consider the other guy, we should consider Obi Toppin. I keep getting back to that same point.
Yeah.
And by the way, Podol is a really good play, even though I do have some concerns there about that situation. But the paying all the way down and then not paying all the way up is definitely going to be the lower owned route, and that's what we're looking for in these slates. We want to try to find creative things we can do to get off that chalk. Let's see. Any other questions here? Any Rose? Absolutely like Derrick Rose very much tonight.
Yeah.
Really frustrated the Knicks have like 9 players that are all only point guard eligible. Makes no sense. They all play together. They can't all be playing point guard all the time. Two, three.
Just some announcements. I mentioned this earlier in the recording, but I'm away for the weekend for like a couple of days actually, and I'll do my best to get projections up, but I'll just do my best I can describe it. I am going to get my MMA breakdown recorded before I leave, so I'm going to do that tomorrow. And yeah.
Yep. That's what'll start. All right. Thanks, Jeremiah. Pretty much basically the same starting lineups that we expected. I wouldn't worry about the Powell thing if you want to take the shot on you're playing Kleba not because you think he's going to go nuts, but because it's a good matchup for him. It's a good. He's good at these tempo matchups, and we all know that whoever's starting for Dallas, basically doesn't need anything because they play Willie Cauley-Stein 5 minutes sometimes when he starts. They play Boban sometimes 5 minutes when he starts. They play Powell 10 minutes when he starts. It's not like I don't think it does enough for me.
Who is Cam Thomas?
He's the rookie for Brooklyn. I would tend to lean on him more in games at home. I think he's reasonable though. He definitely can put up a number. It's just zero chance to probably be on the court at the end of the game unless maybe he's on fire and they're down. But whereas James Johnson has a very reasonable chance to be on the court at the end of the game over LaMarcus Aldridge. So that's why I give the edge to James Johnson there. All right.
Any
Perry, Adam Perry pointing out a weird thing, not to read too much into it, but it's a good point. Toppin did close the last game. Now they were down for what it's worth, but still, it's a little anything a little extra to get you a low owned guy that seems justifiable. I support you trying to use that on these kind of slates. Like that's what you want to try to find is these weird plays that can help win it for you. And I do like Anthony Davis on FanDuel. I shouldn't have been so dismissive of him earlier, I think. But let me see on FanDuel if it makes a big difference with Toppin and Noel. With Robinson and Noel. I think it does. Robinson. No, not really. 51 and 49, basically the same.
So you're playing Luke on FanDuel more, right?
I'm playing Luke on FanDuel more, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And all the Brooklyn guys too. It's just easier to get them in.
Yeah. All right. I guess that's all I got.
Let me quickly take a quick peek and see if there's any other questions in there. Barrett and Burks in the same lineup. It's okay on FanDuel. I think it's okay. K9 Bronco. I think Barrett and Burks could completely. It's just a matter of who ends up playing for it. We don't know. The Knicks don't know because it's different every game. But usually it's going to be Derrick Rose on there at the end of the game. Maybe that doesn't take Barrett out of there. Maybe it's Barrett, Rose, and Burks. I think Burks is the one who's going to be in there for sure. That's what we know for sure.
Well, Bobby, I'll see you in about 45 minutes.
All right.
You'll send me a thing, and then we'll.
Yes.
And we got to remember to check for Noel or whatever before.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds
good
good.
Luck, everybody.